All right, so today I'm talking to one of my students who actually graduated last year, Yuliia. She managed to get hired as a software developer, software engineer, and she's working with Python professionally already for a year in an industry. So I'm gonna talk to her and I'm gonna figure out how it was in the beginning for her when she tried to learn Python on her own, when she was looking for mentors, and I'm gonna ask all the questions that you want to know as a Python beginner and everything that you want to know to get started and how to start. We're going to share a lot of insights into what steps you need to take as a beginner to actually get hired as a software developer. So stay until the end and I'm going to share a lot of insights in this interview. If you want to see this type of content, leave a like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to do more interviews when possible with my students and I'm going to share those interviews here on YouTube. But you have to leave a like and you have to subscribe to the channel to receive this content. So let's start. Could you tell something about yourself? Like, let's say someone is listening to this video on YouTube. How could they know who are you?
Well, my name is Yuliia. I'm from Ukraine originally, but I've been in the US for 7 years now. I got my education in California. I went to college in Santa Barbara and then to university in Long Beach. I got my bachelor's in mathematical economics and statistics. My last year of school was actually when the COVID started, so I kind of have had a lot of free time because school was all online and it wasn't really like studying actually. So I picked up a coding course because I just wanted to try it out. I wasn't sure if I like it or not. I wasn't sure if I'm gonna be good at it or not. I just decided to give it a shot. I started a course by Google. It was a Python automation course. I don't remember quite why I chose Python. I actually tried different languages. I tried Python and Java, and I think I tried a little bit of HTML as well. But I knew that I wanted to do backend rather than front end because I'm not really interested in like colors and how everything is located and fonts and all that stuff. I like to write logic. I like Python much more because it's just more beautiful to me than Java. It's much clearer syntax. It's much more concise. It just made sense to me. And then I started doing this project, and I kept doing it, and everything was fine in the beginning. And then as things started to progress, I started to get stuck. And like I would get more and more stuck. There were not really any help available. They were saying that there are tutors, but instead they were bots and they were just sending generic answers to everybody.
What do you mean by
And
bots, like chatbots?
no, so basically there would be a bot, and if you post a question, they send you the same link that they send to everybody else. And this link just contains a solution. But it's
Oh.
not a real person sending you an answer to your question. It's just a bot sending you a solution. So eventually, like there was even no point to ask a question because you just go to previous question and the answer is always the same. I don't know if there was a way to get a real person, but I never got to it. And so basically, most of my research I was just doing online. I was looking for stuff, but the harder the project gets, the more stuck I get. And honestly, the funny thing about this is that I kind of went back to this project after the course with Roberts. And what I noticed is that the answers that they were proposing were written not for beginners at all. Like that was a code written by someone very professional, very concise, like nested lists,
Yeah.
like stuff that beginner just doesn't understand how to read. So like the answers that they were providing is not readable for beginners, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, there are levels to this. When you start, very simple things seem very complicated. And for someone
So
who
you
is,
need to.
yeah, and for someone who is experienced, like me, for example, I already have this automated in my head. I don't even think about those things. And I can't even imagine from sometimes I can't even imagine from beginner's perspective what seems to be so complicated. It's so easy to me now. But when you can ask a question in a call, for example, then I can understand your perspective. I can understand, oh, I remember I used to have this problem. Also, I remember now I can explain it to you. Yeah, that's the difference.
So yeah, I've been getting more and more stuck, and I honestly started to lose interest as well, because when you're just constantly trying to find solution to a problem and it spends you like 5 hours and then you get stuck in 15 minutes again, that's not really fun. I was actually just looking for a solution, and then I saw the blog post that Robert wrote 5 years ago. And it was actually a solution to one of the problems that I was solving. And then in the bottom it said, I'm helping Python developers. And I was like, okay, like let's send an email, why not? And we had a call, I think it was either the same day or the next day. That's when I found out that, Robert offers a course for 6 months loan, one-on-one. Somebody's gonna be there to answer my questions, to read my code line by line, to give me suggestions one by line, like line by line, which is, huge, because nobody ever done this. And I've never seen anybody offering this as well. Because even boot camps, they're designed for, for 14 people, you're supposed to work 80 hours a week, which is, I don't think it's realistic. Yeah. And then, there is like this promises of a job, but eventually you are the one looking for a job. Nobody's really gonna help you. Like, you need to do it by yourself, and there is no bootcamp that can give you a job.
Did you, before starting to work with me, did you look at some boot camps? Did you consider that option? How was that?
I did quite a lot of research, so I found boot camps and they were offering the discounts, and like 50% discount resulted into a $7,000 boot camp for 2 weeks, and that was 50% discount. So the original price was 16, 17, like it's insane prices.
16, 17K for 2 weeks. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a lot of cash.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how people do it. And that's when they were like during COVID, they were doing this discounts for like 5 to 7 you can find, but it's also like 80 hours. I couldn't imagine coding for 80 hours a week. Like, I could do it, but how much would stay in my head? I don't think that much, because you're just using your short-term memory. You're just trying to, meet the deadlines.
Yeah, the thing with coding is that a lot of these concepts come to you over time. You just do stuff like for weeks, for months, and after 3 months you're like, okay, now I get this. Now I get it, how it works.
Yeah, in 2 weeks it just doesn't.
Yeah,
that's realistic at all. And then I also looked into my university. So I went to Cal State Long Beach, and they had the cybersecurity program for a year, but that was also 15K at a time, which I didn't have. And then, if I'm going to study for another year, that means I cannot make money for another year. So it's like a whole big thing, because while I was taking Robert's course, I was able to work. And then, if it was a full-time studying, that would be really hard to work. And so we started the course.
Before, let's say, okay, we started, but before we started, when we talked on the first call, what were your expectations and how it was in the reality after you started?
Okay. So expectations after the first call or before the first call?
Let's say in the beginning. Let's say we did a call, we talked about it, maybe you started first week. You probably had some expectations in the beginning, but after a while you realized the reality. So how was it? How was both sides for you?
I mean, expectations were pretty similar to reality in terms of how the workflow will go. Because I honestly was amazed that sometimes you would answer me when it's like 4 a.m. in Latvia. I was like, how is that even possible? I would send a message, I'm like, yeah, tomorrow, and then I get an answer right away. I'm like, wait. So like in this sense, I was honestly amazed, because like you were always on point, pretty much always available. I mean, I didn't know a lot of things, so like I had no idea about like this code optimization things, right? That like there is the way I write it as a beginner, unexperienced, and then there is a way you should write it. So that I've never even, I never studied this anywhere. I've never even heard about it. So for me, it was like mind blowing, because it makes a lot of sense, but back in the day, it didn't. I kind of expected this, like giving me assignments and then giving the feedback kind of thing that made sense to me. But you went beyond, because you were always answering very quickly, very, very explanatory. And then also like how experienced developers should write the code, because I don't think anybody will actually like teach you that.
Yeah, I can quickly tell you how I realized this. I spent a year or even 2 years as a beginner writing my own Python code, and I actually got the opportunity to work on a project, and I kept getting stuck many times, and I couldn't see that. I couldn't see, I had blind spots like every beginner. And then someone from outside, like a closer developer, came to me, and I asked him to do a code review for my whole project that I was working on. And he gave me like 5 pages of comments about my code and gave me examples how to do it properly. And then that was the first time I realized, okay, I can learn Python as a beginner, but there are levels to this, and there are levels how you do it and how you do it professionally. And after that time, I actually changed my approach, and I moved to a different company and started to work with other developers who had 5 to 7 years of experience. And I realized they're constantly giving me code reviews, comments, and this is like a free mentorship when you're working with experienced developers. And that's when I excelled in my skills the most. In 2 years I was learning just from developers with 5 to 7 years of experience, and it completely changed how I think about writing code. And that's what I try to do with you, what I try to do with you and all my students. I try to show them this way, that there are ways how you can write code properly and in a very professional way, and it makes it easier. Because if you write code in a beginner way, it seems why it's so difficult, but it's so difficult because you're writing your code in a wrong way. You're missing a lot of concepts, and yeah, this completely changes everything.
Yeah. No, and even like the whole idea of building a project, like for example, how like different files contain different parts of code and then it all comes together. That was also like, I had no idea. Like to me in my head, it was like, just one file, one huge code, and it just does all the job, And then the fact that you also introduce like each HTML, CSS, and like how it also, all just works together, just the overall flow of a project, that was the most difficult thing for me to get by myself. Because like you're not used to you need to organize files in a certain way, you need to organize your folders in a certain way, everything needs to be clear, consistent, clean. And to me, like I cannot imagine how a beginner would know all these things, because this is more even like not even the coding, it's just organization of the code. And there is not really, I don't think there is any like good courses that you can do by yourself that can teach you that.
Yeah, I think it mostly comes from experience, as you are working on projects and maybe you have someone who is more experienced and you just see how he does the things and you just learn from him. I remember I used to have the first company that I worked for, I used to have one developer who was experienced, and when I made mistakes, I asked him, can you please help me? Can you fix this? And he came to my computer, he fixed something, and I was like, how did you do that? And he had no time to explain because he had to do something else. He just went away. And what I did was I opened terminal history and I read what he did and saved in my notes. And that's how I learned. I actually tried to see what they did and learned this way. So my learning process was, in the beginning, it was very hard. I was just trying to figure out what are the developers actually doing and how to do it properly.
Because I work now like at an actual company, and that's what I see all the time. Sometimes, most of the time, people don't have the time or the willingness to explain, especially to a beginner, because like I get it, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, nobody's like actually like paying them for it, so why would they do it, right? So most of the times they just give you the solution, just like all these courses online, and you need to figure it out from there. But in order to get to this point when you can figure it out, you do need some beginner knowledge, like some guidance, step by step. I like that sometimes it was like back and forth. It's not just like me trying to solve something, but it's like an exchange of ideas, and that's what makes it fun, because you are like, you're not just learning, but you're also like contributing a bit.
Yeah, what was the toughest thing that you needed to do?
In the mentoring project,
Yeah. What was the toughest?
find a job.
But the project we're gonna talk about the job hunting, but the
Um,
process, the learning process, and what seemed to be the toughest.
toughest was just for me it was like mental thing, like, oh, I'm not able to do this, I don't know if I can do this, maybe I'm just too dumb to do this. That was my thing, because I never studied coding before. I just tried it, just why not. And then Robert's support was like amazing in a sense, because it was sometimes like I'm talking to my psychologist, He's like, no, you can do this, you already have the mentality, everything is good, you're doing progress. And it helped me a lot, because that's eventually what I needed, somebody to believe in me.
Yeah.
And that's why I was really good, because like the more good feedback I was getting, the more I was motivated to work better, because right now I'm not getting any feedback at my work, and I don't really want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
What I enjoyed the most is that the mentoring project, this is building a website, yes, but I'm not a web developer now. I'm not sure. I wasn't really going to be a web developer at any point. I really didn't know what I was gonna do. I'm still kind of not sure what I want to do with my coding, like for life. But the best part is that I knew that I'm gonna have a full hands-on project that implies different skills, which implies that I know how to code. That's number one. That I know how to build a project, which is very important. That's what they want to see, that you know the whole structure and organization and all that stuff. That's number two. And then three is that it can be applicable to any job. So like the project that we did was building a website, and the job that I got is big data engineer. It doesn't have anything to do with website, but because they saw my portfolio, because they knew about my experience, that's why they hired me. So it's like universal.
Yeah. The things that I'm teaching you, it's not like I'm not teaching you something that's just gonna work for a website, something that's just gonna work for Python. It's not like that. Of course, I'm giving you all these basic things that you need as a beginner, but the main focus is to give you frameworks, concepts, and ideas in your head that you can use over and over and over again in any kind of project that's related to software development. So over the years, I've learned all these concepts, and now I feel like I'm not even feeling like that, but I know for sure I can go in any kind of software development project, and I already see what it is, and I could change the code even if I don't know the language. For example, I'm not a Golang developer, but we have in our company, we have Go code, and sometimes if I need to change something, I can go into that code and I can fix it, I can change it. Of course, I'm not going to be the same level as a Go developer, but I know how it works, I know how to fix things, so all these concepts go over to other languages too.
No, 100%. Because even like my company, like we basically have the same project, but it's just huge.
Yeah.
It's like instead of like 5 files, we have 15, instead of one repository, we have 10, So eventually the idea is the same. The like structure of the project is the same, but you just like apply it in my case, it was in a bigger scale, but it can be like for
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah. How was job search? How was your experience looking for a job after going through mentoring?
Well, I mean, you probably remember that we didn't even fully finish the mentoring project by the time we never really finished fully, but we did like a big part of it. I don't know what's the percentage wise.
It doesn't even matter because
Yeah,
for me, for example, I did the same things as I'm teaching to you and other beginners. You are supposed to work on your project, but it's not gonna be finished because like you would have to spend a lot of time to completely finish the project. But to get hired, you don't even need a finished project. You just need to convince someone that you know something and you know the common concepts, you know how to write code. That's enough. That's all you need to
yeah.
get hired.
Well, and I need to be able to see something too, because I'm sure that they checked my Git repository.
Yeah, of course, but if you have at least some features and they know, they can see commits, they can see commit messages, they can see how you did it, they can, You can clearly tell if someone is a beginner or he knows something, he can build some features. I can tell from someone's code very quickly if he's a complete beginner or if he knows something. And that's all you need to get hired as a beginner.
Yeah.
You just need to convince someone that you are good enough beginner.
That's true. But basically, I mean, so my job search comes from the person, like I said, who doesn't really know what I want to do with because I love to code, but eventually it's a tool. And do I know how I want to apply it? Until now, I'm not really sure. I'm still looking for it. Because there's a lot of jobs, and I feel like you're not really gonna know until you try. Like even this job that I have right now, I'm a big data engineer. I had no idea what that is, what that means, and only now, a year later, when I understand the flow, I'm like, okay, now I get it. When I was applying for a job, I was applying for everything. I would say I didn't have any referrals. I didn't have any friends in the company, nothing. So it was just me. And I would send 8 to 10 applications every day, which is around 50 a week. I don't think I wasn't sending them on the weekend. I was just chilling on the weekend, but during the week, at least 10. And I was sending my applications everywhere. So any position that I see, any company that I see. And what started happening, like in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I was starting to get a lot of calls from recruiters, a lot. I was starting to get annoyed because sometimes the recruiters, they call you and they never call you back.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's pretty much a whole interview and they still don't call you back. Honestly, now I understand that but I would never say no. I would never hang up. Like if it's a recruiter, I talk to them until the end. Even if I don't know what is the job, I still talk just so I know my options. Quite annoying, but I just kept going because I really wanted to get a job and I had to. One day I got a call from a recruiter and we have an interview and I thought that it was just a recruiting company. And then the same company calls me and they're like, okay, so now we're going to do the second interview. And I'm like, oh God, I'm like, this recruiting company wants to do the second interview. They just want to waste my time. So I go on a second interview. And the thing is that I can admit that I was overly confident because I thought it was just a recruiter.
Yeah.
Because if I knew that it was a hiring company, I would be a little bit more assertive, I guess, with what I was saying. But I was just honest. I was saying, yeah, I know this, I don't know this. I was like, I did this I didn't do, very honest, but also not in a diminishing way. I was just saying the truth and I was, confident in what I do know. And so we had the second interview. Then they called me and they told me they offered me the job. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, aren't you guys a recruiting company, And he's like, no, we are a staffing company. I was like, oh, so I was like, okay. And basically, I honestly, I couldn't believe it at first. And so this was by the 6 weeks I was looking for a job. And actually at the same time, I got 2 offers kind of.
Yeah.
Because I also got another offer from a bank in San Francisco, also a software developer. But they wanted me to move and that job was hybrid and I wanted fully remote. So for the hybrid job, I said that I wanted $10,000 more than I asked for the other job. And they said no.
Yeah.
So eventually I went for this company and I'm still working for them until today. I'm still here. Overall, I guess it's good experience overall. If you ask me how many interviews I had, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be on the phone. If we consider the small ones and because sometimes they do a pre-screening call, kind of 5 to 10 minutes, asking you about your experience, about what you want. So if I count everything, it's probably going to be 30 to 40 interviews that I did by then. And it was 6 weeks of applying every single day, 8 to 10 applications a day.
Yeah, that's what you usually need to do in order to get somewhere. And also on this point about being confident and honest in interviews, to be honest, I had the same experience, and I think if you're just honest and confident about your skills, they kind of see that you're not trying to weasel your way into the company. You're not trying to lie something about your skills. You're just honest. You should be already positioning yourself as a developer, You should be like, this is my skills. I don't know everything, and I don't need to know everything, but I have the confidence that I can do the job. So why are not hiring me or something like that? And yeah, I had the same feeling for every job that I went for and I got hired. I always went into these interviews with the mindset like, I don't care if this is not gonna work out with them. I have another opportunity somewhere else. So I'm not even like I'm not feeling down if I get rejected. I'm just moving on to the next position. That's what I tend to do. And you should.
And most of the time, rejection is that they just don't call you back. Like that's okay. It's not like somebody's telling you, "Oh, we don't want to like." Sometimes sometimes you get an email, which is very upsetting. But you know, just part of it, because essentially you need just like that one email that says, "Here's your offer," and then it overcomes everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. What are your like future goals? Do you have? I think you mentioned that you don't really know what you want to do, but maybe you have some future goals that involves Python.
But I mean, whatever I want to do is going to involve Python, that's for sure. Because I've had exposure to like some other languages and stuff. But in my work, I actually mostly do SQL and Python, mostly Python. Well, the company that I work for, they're really old company. And so most of the job that we are doing right now is rewriting existing code that was written like 10 years ago and it doesn't work anymore. So that's the team where I'm working. That's what we do. So we are refactoring, we are automating, just rewriting the whole pieces of code. And actually, I'm working a lot right now with AWS services. This is like 80% of what I do. It's a really good skill to have, to be honest, because I feel like most companies use AWS services to some extent, and mine uses like in a huge scale. But it's also like project organization and understanding end-to-end flow, and then the coding comes like afterwards. But the problem with my company is that it's not innovative company, so they are not interested in creating anything new. They're not interested in like finding new solutions. They wanna, if something is completely broken, that's when they absolutely have to redo it. But even while you're doing it, it's not like they really want to make it better. They just want to make it work.
Yeah.
And I want a little bit more like creativity. I want something that I'm interested in, and working for the company that does something that I'm interested in, because right now I'm working for a mortgage company. I don't really like finance, even though my education is economic. I'm not really interested in money or like making profits or anything like that, or even like mortgages and loans. I'm just like not in my
yeah, it can get boring, but the thing is, with the first job, you just need to get the experience to jump to the new opportunity.
Exactly. Honestly, whatever I'm getting right now is priceless, because so eventually what I'm thinking to go, where I want to go is artificial intelligence. It's just pretty hard industry to get there, because even for internships, I Googled some internships, they require PhD. So, and I only have bachelor's, So, but actually one of the steps to becoming a machine learning engineer is actually being a big data engineer, which is what I am right now. So eventually I'm hoping that whatever I'm doing right now is gonna, help me get the job that I want. But this is just a guess, because in the end, I don't even know if I'm gonna like it, because I'm not a big fan of statistics, and it seems like that is a lot of data. And now I know that I love Python, I love coding, I love problem solving, but I need to find a way to implement it in the way that I like.
Yeah, of course.
This job right now, it's okay. Like I like it. It's good hours. It's very good. It's all remote, so like,
Yeah, I also wanted to ask about this remote. I remember you told me in the beginning they wanted you to work in certain place, like certain location, but you somehow convinced them to do it remotely. How was that process?
They basically told me that maybe in the future we're gonna ask you to work from the office. And I was like, there's no way, because I live in California and it's in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna move to Georgia.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, it's okay. Like, if it ever comes up, we're just gonna deal with it, as we go. But it never really came up because actually all of my coworkers, they're from different places. Like somebody's in Texas, somebody in California, somebody in, I don't know, different places. So I don't think it's gonna happen. But I really like the remote part aspect of work. This is like my favorite. I traveled a lot, and I would just bring my laptop, and I would like work from anywhere, from coffee shops, from the park.
I've seen your stories on Instagram. Those are the best ones. We kind of already touched this topic, but how important do you think is mentorship when you, like in the learning process, when you're starting to learn Python and programming at all?
I feel like it's crucial, like the most important. I don't know, because especially like, because if you go to like school, like a university, you get the mentorship, right? Because you do have your teacher, you do have, we had like assistant teacher. So
Mhm.
I took one coding class at school, and it was similar because there would be office hours, and I would go, and somebody would help me solve the problem, look at my project. But I don't honestly. I know that there are people who learn them by themselves, but even if you can learn the coding, it's just like organizing a project is very different. Like in the beginning, I feel like it's very difficult, and eventually all the projects are organized in the same structure. So you do need to know how to do this. I feel like in this sense, mentoring is super important because even like the project at my work, nobody really explained it to me how it was organized. Like they would kind of give like a basic overview, but without the details. And now
Mhm.
it's been a year, and only now I actually understand what's going on. So it took me a year, which is insane because basically no mentorship. So they would just pinpoint it, but yeah, go there, do this change, go there, do this change, and go here, do this change.
Yeah.
But nobody like explains step by step because it would take hours. I get it,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
exactly.
nobody really explained it to me. So if not Robert's course, which because I knew I had the overall like idea of how it should be, I just couldn't connect the dots. And then in a year I did, but without Robert's project, I have no idea what would happen because you just don't know. It's a whole structure that needs to make sense in your head first before you can apply it to somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. I used to get pissed off. Why is no one explaining anything to me?
No one explained it.
And like now, 7 years later, I'm like, yeah, of course. It's like no one is going to explain anything to you. You are supposed to be able to go into the project and understand things. That's why this job is so difficult for beginners, and that's why you're like your whole life you're used to getting a teacher telling you what to do, go there, go this, go do this, go do that. But when it comes to coding, you're like you have to switch your brain on and start to think and actually
Yeah.
do come up with your own ideas. You can't just outsource your thinking to someone else, to your colleague. He's just gonna ignore you. So you
Mhm.
have to learn these skills.
Well, and even like so the skill of debugging, right, which is the most crucial skill like
Yeah.
ever. There is no course that can teach you how to debug. This is just impossible. Like it's just not possible to do because you
Yeah.
can show right how to add some print statements and stuff. But the truth is that when you have like a unique error that you haven't seen before, you don't know how to debug it. That's why Roberts taught me a lot of different tools of debugging, like breakpoints and print statements, and like different, like even how to do Google search and how to find answers in Google. That's also like that's a skill. And
Yeah.
so that was like a huge part for me too. Like at my new job, it was to figure out how to debug this because their code base is like totally different from what we did with Roberts, totally different from everything that I've seen.
Yeah.
And the backend process is totally different as well because like you cannot write a print statement here. It actually comes from a different file, so you need to go somewhere else. Get your answer from some logs, which I've never even seen before. So it was like a whole thing. And I don't think like nobody told me this at my work, but just because I had the idea of how I know how it's supposed to be. I like I said, I had to like put it all together, and then now I'm able to apply it. But it took me like a full year to actually understand. And I know that if not mentor, I honestly have no idea what would happen because I feel like because if you don't know how it's supposed to be, how can you find a solution where you are right now if you don't even know?
Yeah, you would struggle for years until you would stumble upon maybe someone with more experience who would explain it to you, who would be happy to explain to you, but you would struggle for years to figure out this, because I know this. I used to struggle for years to figure out this. I stumbled upon people who explained to me how to do it properly. Yeah, all right.
But
Um,
nowadays, like 90% of the time, people don't have time. They're trying to finish their assignment, so they're taking time to explain something to you already. They don't want to get into details. They don't want you to ask questions, even though they're saying that you can ask questions. They would just not
that's the
answer.
that's the biggest
Like,
misconception. Like everyone tells you, yeah, if something goes wrong, ask me a question. No one answers for 2 days.
literally. I one time I asked how to look up one table, like super easy, right?
Yeah.
2 days to get an answer. I never got it eventually. Like, and you can bother people. They will just, the more you bother them, the less they reply.
Yeah.
So literally, like, there's no way.
That, that's so funny because I have same exact experience, and I have had same exact experience for years, and I've realized that it's easier to just start to figure out things on your own rather than ask questions that you're not gonna get answers to, and you're just gonna look stupid by asking those questions sometimes. Sometimes it's okay. You can, like, my approach is to ask a very simple question, very short question, and to the point. And if I get an answer, then I'm happy. If not, but if you're gonna ask a bunch of questions and it's gonna be a long message, you're definitely gonna be ignored.
Like one line, that's the most, like one
Yeah.
question mark. If you ask two questions, you will never get answers to both of them.
And if you have many questions, don't ask them at the same time.
Sit out, try to figure something out, try to ask different people. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're close to all my questions being done, and one of the last questions what I would ask is, what do you think is like the best way to approach someone to mentor you? Because I remember you told me in the beginning that you try to ask people on LinkedIn, can they
Yeah.
help you, and you try to ask somewhere else to other developers, but no one answered you. So what do you think is the best approach to ask someone for help? Or like maybe not the best approach, but what do you think works and how you should look for mentors?
Honestly, it's a good question because so I was looking for mentorship, but I wasn't really in my head. I wasn't really learning for somebody to teach me coding. I was just looking for somebody to guide me how to enter the industry, maybe suggest me some resources that I didn't know about, or at least like share their story on how they got their first job, like what helped them, and like, because I heard a lot that you only can do it if you have a referral. I didn't have a referral, so I was also trying to find a referral. Um, but because for me, it was either, for me, mentorship meant just somebody sharing their story and maybe, giving me a referral. That's what mentorship meant for me. And then there were courses, right? That, like I said, they were either you learn by yourself or you need to pay shit ton of money. Because even now, I don't really see a lot of people who offer I've never seen anybody offering like a 6 month course, for example, or like to build a project, because they usually, especially one on one, because usually it's more like a group thing, and I didn't really want to do a group thing because like I already finished my school and it was plenty of this type of classes for me. And I guess the best way is just keep trying, because it's just basically, it's like universe stuff. Like if you keep trying, eventually you're gonna find, because like I found Roberts on some random website that I would never even go to if I wasn't looking for a solution for my problem. So I just think you just gotta outsource and look everywhere, social media, LinkedIn, and I was texting, like emailing some people from Instagram and stuff. Eventually, nothing helped, but eventually I found Roberts, right? The same way. I saw the email, I sent the message. Because, in the end, it only takes like 2 to 5 minutes to send an email.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be like a big deal. And even if you don't get an answer, it's not a rejection. It's just, people didn't answer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't even try to send a simple email message because they think,
Yeah.
oh, he's not gonna answer, or he's just gonna ignore me. And the same thing goes with trying to apply for jobs. A lot of people just take this idea in their heads, like, I'm gonna get rejected, so why should I try? But that's the wrong mindset. You should try until you get the results. There's no other way to do it.
If you're looking for something, you're gonna find it eventually.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, last question would be: would you recommend my mentorship to others?
I really did to everybody that I know, because honestly, like this course was a savior for me, because I was at this point when I was like about to give up. Still, like I still had some like fuel in me, but I just went through. For me, it was just like it's like a one-way street, you know. Like I'm the only one working. I'm never getting any feedback, you know. I'm only like, to me, in my eyes, I was only struggling and struggling and struggling. And like at this point, I was like, okay, like, you know, like maybe it's not for me, you know, maybe I cannot do it, you know, like maybe it's just not gonna, you know, not meant to be. And when we started the course, everything just went so smooth, you know, because I already did have some knowledge. You know, with proper mentorship, it just escalates the process, just makes it like 3, 5 times faster. I don't know how much faster. You just can ask a question, you know, you get, and you don't, it's not about getting an answer, it's about knowing how to get an answer, which is what, you know, Roberts explains. So it's not like, oh yeah, you just put this, you know, it's like, oh yeah, go here, go here, check this, and you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense, you know. It's kind of like mini debugging sort of thing. And so in this sense, I think it's amazing. 100% recommend to everybody. I would recommend it to literally everyone that I know, anyone who's interested in coding, because it's also very like supportive learning environment. It's not like there is no crazy deadlines that you need to accomplish, because from the beginning, Robert told me like, I'm gonna be with you until you get a job. So it wasn't like, oh, 6 months and then I'm gonna cut you off, you know. It wasn't like this. So I just knew that like I have this support, and I have this mentorship. And also, Roberts, you helped me a lot with preparing for my interviews, with writing my resumes, which was huge, because from a person without any experience to write a resume like you have an experience is very difficult, because you don't know what's happening in the workspace, you don't know how the flow goes. So from that point of view, it was also like huge help. And yeah, 100% the best mentorship I've ever.
Nice, perfect. Thank you. I really appreciate all those words, and because I like what I'm doing, and I like to share all the knowledge that I've gathered over the years, because I know how frustrating it is in the beginning to start to get into this industry, and I remember how hard it was for me. So it's a very fulfilling job for me to share this with someone else and show exact steps to take. These were all the questions that I wanted to ask. So yeah, I'm really glad we did this call, and I'm happy and thankful for your presence today.
I'm very grateful for you until the rest of my life for you.
All right, if this seemed interesting to you, if you like the story that Yuliia told you and you feel like you're inspired to do coding, don't lose this motivation. Now is the time to get started. If you want to get to similar results, if you actually want to become software developer but you're not really sure where to start, how to start, what kind of concepts you should learn, and how to actually prepare yourself for interviews and actually go through the interview process and get hired. If you want to know all this information, if you want to know all the steps, you can send me a message. You can find my contact details below. You can find my email address, and you can send me an email explaining your situation. If I will see a potential in you, if I will see there is a way I can help you, we will probably work together. But first of all, you have to send me an email and you have to tell me about your situation.